Hello everybody, welcome to Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH, and today we will be discussing activity-based costing and service cost allocation methods. We are still at strategic cost management. At the end of the video, you should be able to define and explain activity-based costing and its difference with traditional overhead costing. Explain the cost accumulation procedures applied in activity-based costing system. Determine the cost to be charged to the product using activity-based costing system. Explain the rationale behind service cost allocation and its importance. Determine the appropriate service cost allocation method to be applied and allocate service department costs using direct method, sequential method, and algebraic method. This is your management accounting trainer, Kevin Troy M. Chua. Before anything else, please like, share, and subscribe to Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH and hit the notification bell button to alert you of the latest video lessons. Please comment down your questions, suggestions, and reactions. And to our 32,000 subscribers, thank you very much for trusting Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH as your online learning partner. In the last lesson, we have discussed cost volume profit analysis, and we have applied the concepts of variable costing on how these cost, volume, and profit relate to each other and what are their relationships that can help the entity's managers in their decision making. And now we are ready to move on with another costing system that can help managers understand what really happens in the production process, which is activity-based costing. And later on in our discussion, we will also be having service cost allocation. Okay, I think we're ready to start. Okay, so let's first talk about traditional costing. So what is traditional costing? Broad averaging or peanut butter costing system describes a costing approach that uses broad averages for assigning the cost of resources uniformly to cost objects. Like as what we can see here, how do you spread a peanut butter in a bread? You just put the peanut butter there and then you just spread it uniformly. In traditional costing, that's how we do it. We just assign the cost uniformly to all these products. However, the problem in traditional costing is that we actually use those resources in non-uniform ways. Some products uses more of it. Some products uses less of it. So it might be unfair to our products if we will just be giving them or allocating them the same level of cost. Okay? So that's what happens in traditional costing. We give them uniform allocation of our overhead cost when in reality, these resources are actually not being used by all of those products during the production process uniformly. So basically, those resources are used in non-uniform ways. And that's what happens when we use traditional costing, in which sometimes this traditional costing is like your departmental rates, which is as in the whole department uses it, or the plant-wide rate in which the whole plant or the whole production process uses everything. So that's what's happening in traditional costing. Now, there is actually a possibility of undercosting products there is actually a possibility of undercosting products or overcosting. Nababaliktad ako, sorry. Okay. There might be a possibility of overcosting products or undercosting products when we are using traditional costing or peanut butter costing. Okay? Because if a company undercosts one product, it will overcost at least one of its products, and that's what you call product cost cross subsidization. Because if there is a lower cost that is being allocated in one product, another product will suffer because siya yung kakain nun, tataas yung product niya. So when one product is undercosted, if that's a correct English, then another product will be overcosted. Okay? So that's what you call product cost cross subsidization. Now, how does it happen? In product undercosting, ganito po yung nangyayari. Product undercosting happens when a product consumes high level of resources. So marami siyang nagagamit na resources. However, what we are able to allocate, because we just spread it uniformly, it's allocated with lower cost than what it should be. Okay, so the opposite is true with product over costing. If we are applying uniform costing to all of them, product over costing happens when a product consumes low level of resources, but what we allocate in it is higher cost than what it should be. So in product under costing, you are costing it parang kulang, tapos doon naman sa isa sumosobra ka. So kulang sa isa, sobra sa isa, nagkakaroon ng subsidization ng cost sa isa't isa. So there is a possibility that one product is overcosted and another product is undercosted, if that's again a correct English for it, when we use uniform allocation of overhead, when in reality those resources are being used by these different products or in the production process itself in non-uniform ways. Now, the answer for that, in order for us to minimize the risk that we might have product under costing or product over costing, is activity-based costing system. ABC, or activity-based costing system, allocates overhead cost to multiple activity cost pools and assigns the activity cost pools to product by means of cost drivers. Putting it simply, we are technically looking on the specific activities that is involved in the accumulation of cost, and we will be assigning these overhead costs to our product specifically on each activity na dinadaanan niya. Now, what information we need in activity-based costing are the cost pools and the cost drivers, because these cost pools and cost drivers will help us understand and will help us allocate later on kung ano po ba talaga yung tamang cost dun sa mga product line natin. Okay? Cost driver triggers a change in the cost of an activity. It is used as a basis for cost allocation. Any factor of activity that has a direct cause-effect relationship. So basically, what happens is, since your cost driver is your trigger, if your cost driver is high, you can expect that the allocated cost for that product will be technically higher as well. And because it also has a direct cause-effect relationship, so if your cost driver is a bit low, then it will also give your product lower allocated cost. Saan po natin kukunin yung cost na i-allocate natin dun sa ating mga product lines? Galing po dito sa cost pool. If you will be looking at a swimming pool, naiipon ang water sa swimming pool. In activity cost pool, ito naman po yung mga kung saan naiipon ang costs bago natin siya i-allocate to our specific production processes. Okay? So yun po yung cost driver tsaka cost pool. Ngayon po, in activity-based costing system, as what I've mentioned earlier, it's more about checking all of the activities specifically that, or basically the resources that during the production process is being used. And then, so syempre, ang mangyayari sa atin, magiging very specific din tayo sa i-allocate natin ko sa kanya, kasi kung ano lang talaga yung dinaanan yung process or kung ano lang talaga yung ginamit niyang resource, that will only be the cost that will be allocated to that certain product in the production process. Now, for you to understand further the concepts of cost driver and cost pool, let's have these examples. Okay? So, in our left side here in the video, yung ating pong cost pools. Saan po naiipon yung mga cost na i-allocate natin later on sa production process? And ano po yung mga possible cost drivers na gagamitin natin to properly allocate these costs na naipon? Okay? So, first example is the purchasing department. So, the purchasing department, syempre from the word itself, dyan po nangyayari lahat ng purchases ng raw materials and indirect materials. So, syempre, ang magiging cost driver natin, nakailan ba tayong purchase order during the period? Pero pong ganon. Pagka naman po receiving department, pwede rin po siyang mag-relate sa purchase order, kasi si receiving department naman po, siya naman po yung magre-receive ng lahat ng in-order nating purchases. So, it can also relate to the number of purchase orders. Materials handling naman po, na department, syempre, you can relate it na kailan ba tayong materials requisition during this period. Now, for the setup is how many number of setups are required, or basically, how many setups did we do? Okay? Meron po kasi mga machine setup na kailangan per cycle of production sineset up. Merong isang set-upan lang. So, depende po sa ganun. Okay? And then, for inspection, syempre may costs din naman po ang pag-i-inspect. Like kanina, may cost din naman yung pagsa-set up. So, in inspection is, we also have costs of inspection. The thing is, how many inspections did we do this period? Okay? And then, in the engineering department, are there any engineering change orders? And if there is, how many? And then personnel processing, basically this is related to your human resource department. So the number of employees that are hired or laid off, or how many employees are being served by the HR, something like that. And then the cost of the salaries of your supervisors, you can actually allocate that using the direct labor hours. So as you can see, we are actually looking on the actual activities na dinadaanan ng ating mga na dinadaanan sa production process natin, na hindi man siya diretsong nakaka-apekto mismo do sa produkto, kailangan mo ngang i-allocate yung overhead na to sa mga produkto. Which is, the thing in traditional costing is that we cannot actually allocate them uniformly, because in reality, iba-iba tayo ng paggamit ng mga services na ito, at iba-iba tayo ng paggamit ng mga resources na to. Iba-iba per product line yung paggamit natin nung mga cost pool na ito. So, the advantage of activity-based costing is we are able to look at it specifically, so that the allocated cost later on sa ating mga produkto, syempre, mas magiging, hindi man accurate, pero at least mas precise, di ba? At, syempre, estimated lang naman din yan after all, kaya wala tayong talagang 100% accuracy. But the thing is, mas nagiging precise yung ating pong pag-allocate ng resources na nagamit, kesa naman ini-spread mo lang siya uniformly like a peanut butter. Okay, so kasama po sa pag-aaralan natin ng activity-based costing ay yung tinatawag po natin na ABM, or Accountancy, Business and Management. Joke lang. Okay, Activity-Based Management. So, ano po yung Activity-Based Management? Activity-based management is focused on the analysis of the entity's activities that affects the production greatly. Kasi after all, mga kapatid, in the production process, we're not just actually looking how the product goes from one department to another. It's not like that. Remember that in the whole production process is lahat po ng related services na ginagamit natin, or related resources, kailangan i-account din po natin na it might indirectly affect your product, which is, as you know, in cost accounting, when there is a cost that indirectly affects your product but it is still part of the cost of the product, then it is an overhead. So, sa activity-based management naman po, titignan po natin ano po ba yung mga activities na nakakaapekto sa production at saan po ba talaga siya dumadaan. However, our goal in activity-based management is to eliminate activities na wala namang ambag. Okay? Di ba yung kagrupo nyo sa thesis or sa research na wala namang ambag, ang sarap tanggalin, di ba? Bakit ang sarap niyan tanggalin? Kasi wala naman siyang ambag, tapos umaandar naman yung thesis nyo ng kayo-kayo lang. So, yung kagrupo nyo na walang ambag, ang sarap tanggalin. Ganon din po yung ginagawa natin sa activity-based management, di ba? If there are activities na dinadaanan ng ating production process pero wala naman palang ambag sa production, ba't pa natin dinadaanan? Much worse is baka ginagastusan pa natin, wala naman palang ambag. Yan yung gusto nating mangyari sa activity-based management. Non-value-adding activities are activities that add cost to the production process. So, yun yung sinasabi ko sa iyo, there is a possibility that we actually spend for it, or hindi man we spend for it, we increase production time. But as you know, when we increase production time, meron pa rin cost associated in longer production periods, right? Like higher cost of utility. So parang may cost pa din, 'di ba? But it does not add any value to the product. Wala siyang ambag sa pagde-develop natin ng product mismo into making it saleable finished goods. Okay? Now, when non-value adding activities are eliminated without reduction of product quality. So, if you are already analyzing all of the activities that the product goes into, and then you were able to eliminate yung nalaman mong non-value adding activities, lalo na't nalaman mo na hindi naman pala talaga siya kailangan because it does not reduce any quality of the product, so your production time will go down, so you will have lower overheads because of that, and then the cost related to that non-value adding activities na sinipa mo pala basta tinanggal mo, it will also be eliminated. So as you know, saan po magdidiretso ngayon yung ginagawa natin in activity-based management? Because you are already able to eliminate those activities that does not add value to the product, it will now increase profitability kasi napababa mo yung cost of production without compromising quality. Okay? Napababa mo yung production time, napababa mo yung cost na ginagastos natin, pero same pa rin naman po yung nangyari dun sa product, and it does not reduce the quality, it does not affect your production process, then it will help you now increase your profitability because activity-based management helped you lower down your cost management pa din, di ba? On another perspective, activity-based management, total kinakalkal mo na isa-isa, di ba, yung mga activities na dinadaanan ng product. It will also assist you in determining the activities that greatly help the production process that can increase the value of a product or service. So, putting it on the opposite perspective, because you are already analyzing all of the activities na dinadaanan po ng isang produkto, now, it will also help you determine ano pa po ba yung mga dapat nating strengthen na parang, itong process na to, it makes it really adds value. It makes our products of high quality, no? It really adds to the quality of the product. Maybe we should strengthen this, parang ganon. So, on another perspective, ABM also helps you locate what are the activities that would be better and best, parang ganon, for your product. So, yan po yung tinatawag nating activity-based management. Okay, it's related to strategic management in a sense that we are creating value for the products, and we create value for the products. Our customers are happy, and if our customers are happy, then we have added value to our customers, which is one goal of strategic management. After all, this is strategic cost management. Okay? Minsan hindi nyo lang mapapansin na parang, sir, parang napag-aralan naman na natin tong activity-based costing last sem sa cost accounting. Hindi. May epekto pa rin naman yung mga pinag-aaralan natin na kahit nadaanan nyo na siya sa cost accounting, how does it help naman in adding value? Which is, sabi ko nga sa inyo, cost management is, we want to lower down our cost of production, and how can we do it strategically. So let's apply it also on the parlance of strategic management, which is, after all, we want value for our customers, value to the owners, and value to the employees. Okay? So yun po yun. Sige, problem na agad tayo. Okay, so this is problem number 1, and we will be solving a problem about activity-based costing and yung mga information na makukuha natin, paano siya magkakatulong sa managers. Okay? The following cost information has been established by the accounting department of Kangwon Manufacturing Company. So, the direct materials incurred for the whole production process is 495,000, and then direct labor is 600,000. Now, with the use of activity-based costing, ito po yung sinasabi ko sa inyo, iisa-isahin mo ngayon yung mga dinadaanan niyang activities related to overhead. Pero, yung 900,000 natin na total overhead, hindi na natin siya basta lang i-spread na, okay, if we have produced 10,000 or 7,000 or 8,000 units, we'll just apply the overhead of 900,000 to these 10,000 units. So, 900,000 divided by 10,000, yun na yung predetermined overhead rate. That's how you do it traditionally, peanut butter costing. However, in activity-based costing, we really want to be precise. with the overhead that we will be allocating to our products. Kaya iisa-isahin mo ngayon, ano po ba yung mga talagang dinadaanan nating overhead? At ano po yung mga cost pool niya? At ano po yung magda-drive dun sa mga cost na yon later on sa ating products or mga product lines natin. Okay? So, sabi dito sa problem, ang dinadaanan daw po ng overhead natin, meron daw po tayong machine setup, materials handling, waste control dun sa mga hazardous materials natin or hazardous waste control, quality control, and all other overhead costs. Yung mga other overhead costs natin, pwedeng mga utility cost or yung ating mga depreciation kasi nakadepende sa machine hours eh. So, pwedeng ganon. Okay? So, ito yung mga cost po niya, 300,000, 150,000, 50, 100, and 300. And then, ang sabi, to allocate daw po later on sa machine setup, ang gagamitin mo, syempre, number of setup. Sa materials handling, gaano karami yung materials na hinandle in terms of weight. Ganon din po sa hazardous waste, yung weight din. Okay? And then, sa quality control, ilan yung quality control inspections na ginawa mo. And for all of your other overhead costs, it will now be based on your machine hours. Okay, so ganun po siya. Tapos, ito daw po yung expected activity levels natin for the production process. So, yan po yung gagamitin natin later on to allocate it based on the products. At kung ilan talaga yung ginamit or ilan yung setup for product A, ilan yung weight of materials na hinandle for product B, ilang weight or ilang pounds yung hazardous waste sa C. So, mas nagiging precise tayo kapag gumamit na tayo ng activity-based costing. Okay? So, ganito gagawin natin. So, this is now your detailed cost information. So, I suggest screenshot nyo siya kasi gagamitin natin siya mamaya sa pagsosolve ng problem. So, ito daw po yung details ng 495,000. As you can see, we have 3 product lines which is product X, product Y, and product Z. So, materials daw po niya is this one, and this one. And then for labor naman po, this one, and this one. Okay? Tapos, ito na daw po yung specific activities. Talagang naisa-isa na. Sabi nila, naka 45 setups daw po tayo sa product X, 30 setups sa product Y, and 25 setups sa product Z. Tapos, sa quality control naman, kunyari, naka 400 inspections tayo, naka 200 inspections, tsaka 400 inspections. So, ganun po ang activity-based costing. Talagang iisa-isahin natin lahat ng overhead activities na dinaanan ng ating mga product lines. Okay? So, ganun po siya. Ngayon, i-assume nyo daw po, total mahilig naman kayo mag-assume, that we have produced and sold 2,500 units at wag na natin pahirapan yung mga sarili natin. Walang beginning and ending work in process and finished goods inventory. Pero sa exam nyo, lagyan natin para masaya tayong lahat. Joke lang. Okay. So, the requirement is number 1, compute for the product cost under traditional costing and compute for the product cost under activity-based costing. Tingnan natin sinong mas angat, sinong mas sikat. Joke lang. Okay. So, we will just be comparing them later. Tapos malalaman natin na, hala, nung nag-traditional costing pala tayo, overcost tayo or undercost tayo. So, mamaya, i-check natin yan isa-isa. Okay. So, let's first solve using the traditional costing at total mahilig uli kayong mag-assume. Let's just assume that the overhead was allocated based on the units that we produce. So, sabi nga po kanina sa problem, 2,500 units daw po yung ating na-produce at na-benta per product line. So, that's a total of 7,500. So, this is how you do it. Ito daw po yung details ng materials. For X is 150,000. For Y is 180,000. And for C is 165. For labor naman po, tig to 200 sila, as you can see kanina. Now, our total overhead kanina was 900,000 and then ang allocation po natin is based on the units produced. So, 900,000 times 25 over 75. 75 is the total. Okay? Or pwede nyo rin naman gawin kung ayaw nyong ganito, 900,000 divided by total of 7.5. So, makakakuha kayo ng predetermined overhead rate, tsaka nyo i-multiply sa 2.5. Pwede rin ganon. Okay? So, 300, 300, 300, and that's a total of 900,000. Get the magkakapatid. Sa cost accounting, lagi nyo naririnig sa akin yan. Get the magkakapatid, materials, labor, and overhead. Your total manufacturing cost for X is 650,000. For Y is 680,000. And for Z is 665,000. Ganyan po ang traditional costing. You are just only allocating your overhead uniformly like a peanut butter using a predetermined overhead rate. Now, let's try it using activity-based costing. Okay, so the first step in ABC is to calculate for the overhead rates per activity based on cost drivers. So, hindi na po tayo magsa-single plant-wide rate kasi per activity na po yung kukuhanin nating overhead rate. Ito po yung sinasabi ko sa inyo that we become more precise. Okay? So, ganito po siya. Ito daw po yung cost per activity and then ang i-expect natin is 100 setup, 50,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds, 1,000, 30,000. So, ganito lang po kunin yung cost rate, no? Mathematics 1 lang ito, napakadali. 300,000 machine setup cost divided by 100 setup, ibig sabihin, ang gastos mo per setup, 3,000 pesos per setup. Same with materials handling. 150,000 po yung cost niya, pero ang handling natin is 50,000 pounds. So, 150,000 divided by 50,000 is 3 pesos per pound. Ganon din sa hazardous waste control. 50,000 divided by 10,000, 5 pesos per pound. Quality control, 100,000 daw lahat, naka 1,000 inspections, 100 pesos per inspection. And then other overhead costs, 300,000, 30,000 machine hours. So, kada machine hour, 10 pesos per machine hour. Parang predetermined overhead rate din naman talaga. It's just that, dahil activity-based costing, by activities done because we want to be more precise because it is based on activity. Kaya tinawag na activity-based costing. Okay, your step 2 is to allocate overhead based on activity using the rates calculated. So, ito po yung mga rates na na-calculate natin kanina, which is 3,000 per setup, 3, 5, 110. Okay? Tapos, ito po yung mga activities natin kanina. For product X po ito, hindi ko na naman nalagyan ng label, parang kayo. Okay? Tapos, ito po yung product Y at saka product Z, tas yung total. Okay? So, paano na po natin i-allocate yung overhead? Charan! O, yan. O, siyempre, isa-isahin natin. Okay? So, gagawa po kayo ng columns for product X, product Y, and product Z. And this is how you will be allocating the overhead per product Y. For all the 3 product lines, rather. Okay. For machine setup, this is how you do it. So, sabi po natin, ang ating rate per setup is 3,000 per setup. So, 3,000 per setup. Syempre, kung yan yung per setup, multiply mo kung ilan ang setup. Diba? So, 45 setups for X, 30 setups for Y, and 25 setups for Z. You just have to multiply 135, 90, 75, and that gives you the total of 300,000. Okay? Di ba madali lang? O, sa materials handling tayo, 3 per pound daw. So, 3, 3, 3. Ilang pound sa product X? Ayun, 15,000, 15,000, 10,000, 10,000, 25,000, 25,000. Multiply 45, 30, 75. So that will also be the same process that you will be doing in hazardous waste control. 5 per pound, tapos ilang pounds ba per product line. Quality control, 100 pesos per inspection. 100 pesos per inspection, you multiply it to the number of inspections. And then for your other overhead costs, magkano overhead rate ng other overhead per hour? 10 at kung ilang machine hours per product. Then you multiply. Okay? So, ngayon, yung pag-allocate mo ng overhead per activity mo ginawa. Kasi nga po, activity-based costing. So, pag nakuha mo na lahat, total mo yung kay product X, 332,500. Total mo yung kay product Y, 265,000. Total mo yung kay product Z, 302,500. Lumabas pa rin accordingly yung 900,000. Okay? Sige po. Step 3 po natin is syempre, you can now compute for the total manufacturing cost per each product. So, i-add nyo lang po yung magkakapatid, materials, labor, and overhead. So, ito po yung nakuha natin kanina sa overhead. San po galing yan? 332, 265, 302, 500. San galing yan? Ito po yan, no? 332, 265, 302, 500. Kinuha ko lang doon. Okay, kasi next slide na ako. Okay, so this was your factory overhead, and then add mo na yung magkakapatid. Ito na po yung materials na 495,000. Ito na po yung labor na 600,000. And ito po yung allocated overhead po natin kanina. So, ito na po yung total manufacturing cost natin for all of the products. Okay? So, parang ang dating ngayon as a manager, yung deciding factor mo tungkol sa napakaraming bagay, like isa sa nakaka-affect talaga na decision about cost is pricing decision, di ba? So, with the use of activity-based costing, because you have allocated these factory overhead costs in a much precise manner, you are very sure na talagang precise yung mga nakuha nating cost. 'Di ba? Malilesen mo yung risk na baka nagkaroon ng product over costing or product under costing. Kasi nga, talagang inisa-isa mo na yung activities, no? So, as a manager, magiging confident ka na, okay, we can decide for the proper selling price of these products because we know that the costing of these products are very precise. So, as a manager, merong confidence level sa'yo na what I have here are very precise information, so I can use this activity-based information for me to properly decide what are the selling prices or what are the next steps that we need to do. And applying it also on the parlance of activity-based management, talagang dahil yun nga po, inisa-isa din po natin yung mga activities na dinaanan during the production process, you can strengthen your value-adding activities and you can eliminate your non-value-added activities. O, diba ang saya? Okay. So, ngayon, i-compare natin mga kapatid yung nangyari sa traditional costing at sa activity-based costing. And let's answer the question. With the use of traditional costing, bago tayo mag-activity-based costing, anong nangyari? Under costing, over costing. Tingnan natin. Nung naging mas precise tayo sa measurements natin ng activities, 682,500 pala siya na dating kinokost lang natin ng 650. Siya po ay undercosting dati. Kulang kasi. 682,500 pala siya. 650 mo lang siya nakokost dati. Ganon. How about this one? 645,000 lang pala siya. Bakit mo siya nakokost dati ng 680,000? Siya po ay over. Ay, ito naman. 667,500 pala siya. Bakit dati kinokost mo lang ng 665,000? Siya po ay undercosted. Okay? So, with activity-based costing, mas naging precise tayo sa measurements natin, mas naging precise tayo sa pag-allocate natin ng overhead, and we can mitigate or minimize the risk of overcosting or undercosting because you have been very precise with the allocated overhead that you have. Okay. So, these are the benefits of activity-based costing. Because we are very precise with our measurements and we are very precise with the activities that our products go into, it provides realistic cost of manufacturing for specific products. It also allocates your manufacturing overhead more accurately. Hindi sinabing accurate pero more accurately kesa dati. Okay? To products and processes that use the activity. It also identifies inefficient processes and targets for improvement. Parang familiar, 'di ba? Ina-identify daw po yung mga processes na inefficient, mga walang masyadong ambag. Activity-based management po 'yon. So, nata-target mo rin po kung ano yung dapat i-improve sa production process. And you can also use it in pricing decisions. So, later on, you can also use it for the determination of product margins because your cost information is precise. You can say now also that your determination of profit margins later on will also be precise. It discovers which processes has unnecessary and wasted cost. Activity-based management uli, di ba? Elimination ng ating non-value added activities. And it offers better understanding and justification of cost in manufacturing overhead. Better understanding because you now see what really happens. Diba? Parang ganon. However, in every advantage, there is also a disadvantage. So, what are the limitations of activity-based costing? The data accumulation itself is time-consuming because you have to look at them one by one, really. Really need to be specific on them. So it's really time consuming, and it's not just actually time consuming, medyo may cost, 'di ba, na kasama sa kanya, no? So that's point number 2. It costs more to accumulate and analyze information, unlike when you are just using a plant-wide rate. Okay, this is our total estimated overhead. You just apply it in some single driver, then that's it. It's allocate. Okay? Mas mabilis kasi doon. Pero pagka activity-based costing, it costs more to accumulate and analyze information because it's time-consuming. Okay? And then, source data isn't always readily available from normal accounting reports. You don't report the number of pounds that was handled in the materials in GAAP, di ba? Hindi mo kailangan yun eh. In normal accounting reports, you don't usually record it that detail. And as you know, going deeper into details is needed by management accounting. So, from normal accounting reports, it might not be readily available for the managers. So, babalik ka sa number 1 na you will be consuming time really in the collection and preparation of data. Reports from ABC don't always conform to GAAP. And basically, sometimes it cannot be used for external reporting. Okay? Data produced by ABC may conflict with managerial performance standards previously established from traditional costing methods. So, baka po kasi meron ng previously established standards, magkakaroon ng conflict pag bigla ka nag-ABC, so another adjustment na naman. And in another adjustment, there are costs related to it. Parang ganon. Okay? And it may not be as useful for companies where overhead is small in proportion to total operating costs. So, activity-based costing is actually not applicable for those companies or manufacturing entities that, number 1, the operations are really not that complex, and number 2, there's only a small proportion of total operating cost when we are talking about overhead. Baka naman hindi masyadong material yung overhead, nag-ABC ka pa. Parang ganon. So, there are actually production process that are straightforward. So, maybe I think your traditional costing would do better on that rather than spending time doing activity-based costing. But if you want to be precise, why not? No, hindi ka naman pinipigilan. It's just that if your overhead is small in proportion, baka po hindi naman natin kailangan mag-activity-based, or there might be a possibility that if your company is not that complex in terms of your operations, baka nga po mag-traditional or activity-based kamang costing, baka halos pareho lang yung lumabas na product cost niya kasi hindi naman ganong complex yung operations mo. So, kung mas simple, dun ka na sa simplicity talaga. So, ang tanong, kailan ka mag-switch to activity-based costing? Okay, ito naman yung mga indicators na kailan ako mag-activity-based costing. If I have many product lines and my manufacturing processes are complex, okay, galing yung gatas ng aking ice cream mula sa lush green farms parang ganon, yung mga baka doon ay alagang-alaga, Tapos, dadalhin sa ganitong facility para i-process yung gatas. After ma-process yung gatas, dadalhin na sa storage area, tapos i-issue sa production para maging ice cream. Yung mga ganon, talagang kailangan ABC yan kung very complex ang iyong manufacturing operations. You should also switch to ABC if you not only have numerous product lines, but they are diverse and they require differing degrees of support service. And that's what we are talking about. If they are requiring different degrees of support service, it will be unfair if you will just be applying the same peanut butter overhead for all of them, because they use different levels of resources. Okay? Overhead costs constitute a significant portion of total cost. So if you think that overhead cost is a bit material, or it's really big when you compute for the tatlong magkakapatid of materials, labor, and overhead, then your overhead should really be precise. I don't suggest really using traditional method if your overhead cost is really material. You have to be precise with that overhead cost when it's material, and it includes a really significant portion of the total cost of the magkakapatid. The manufacturing process or the number of products has changed significantly, so there might be big changes in your production. I think you should switch also to ABC. And then production or marketing managers are ignoring the data provided by the existing system. So let's say, for example, your existing system is the traditional or the peanut butter one, but the marketing managers or the production managers doesn't even look at those reports. Why are you using that? At baka yung mga manager na to, hindi na pala hindi na pala pinapansin yung mga data na yon. Nagkakaroon pala ng sarili nila ng analysis ng activities. Abay, mag-isip-isip ka. Hindi na applicable talaga ang traditional costing doon. Kasi kung yung mga managers mo mismo na ang nag-iisip at nag-a-analyze ng talagang nangyayari doon sa production process, di nag-ABC na sila, yung system nyo na lang ang hindi. You should switch to ABC. Okay? And that was our discussion for activity-based costing. And related to that, tayo naman po ay mag-allocate ng service department cost. Okay, so what are these service department costs? Okay, service or support department is a unit in an organization that contributes in a very indirect way to the conversion of raw materials to finished goods. They are, however and still, at whatever little it may be, involved in producing goods. These departments are the purchasing department, personnel department, warehousing department, and maintenance department. Tapos dito, ayan, meron pa. Ito yung mga warehousing department. Tapos ito naman yung company cafeteria. Yan, service support department cost din yan, or service department din yan. Excuse me. Okay. So since these departments support the production process, the costs incurred in these departments should be allocated to the production departments to determine the cost of a product for proper decision making. Very indirect, no, yung kanilang relationship in the creation of the product. But in a little sense, you can also say that it affects the production in itself. Why? For example, dito sa company cafeteria, sino ba kumakain dyan? Yung mga, this is a very literal sense ha. Sino ba kumakain dito? Di ba yung mga trabahador mo? Yung mga trabahador mo ay kailangan nila ng energy for the day. So kakain sila sa cafeteria. After they have eaten in the cafeteria, they can now continue their work producing products and services, or producing products rather, diba? So parang in a very little way, it is still involved in the production of the goods. Ito naman yung warehousing natin. Bakit? Kung wala kang proper warehouse na storage ng iyong mga raw materials, how can you keep your raw materials? And eventually, those raw materials will be then used in the production process. Your warehouse department does not do the products in itself, but your warehouse department helps you store the raw materials that will later on be issued in the production process. right? So it's not really that related to the production process, but the service department costs support the production process in a very little way, but they should still be allocated to the production department for proper costing ng mga produkto natin. Uulitin ko sa inyo, the cost incurred in these departments should be allocated to the production departments to determine the proper cost of a product, because these departments help also in the production of the products, even though very indirectly. Okay? So yun po yung ating mga service department cost. There are three methods of allocation of service department cost. We have the direct method, the sequential method, you can also use or call it the step method, and the algebraic method or the reciprocal method. In the direct method, there is a direct allocation of service cost to the production department. However, in step method, you will be ranking the service departments which is more prevalent over the other, and then the initially ranked service department affects the cost of the second in rank, and then that's the time that you will only be allocating it to the production department. And then for algebraic method, you will use that when there are reciprocal provision of services to each other, and there will be mathematical cost functions in algebra that we need to do them later. Okay, so for you to further understand the difference between the three, let us look at this diagram. Okay, let's first talk about again regarding the direct method. This is what happens in your direct method. So let's say, for example, this is service department 1 and service department 2, and then you also have here your production department 1 and production department 2. In direct method, what you do here is that the cost of service department 1 will just be allocated to production department 1 and P2, and then your service department 2 will just be allocating its cost to P1 and P2 as well directly. Okay, so ganun lang, no? Kapag ka naman po sequential method or step method, this is what happens. Your S1 department is the initially ranked service department kasi baka it also provides services to S2. Kaya mag-allocate din siya ng cost sa S2, and syempre it will also allocate cost to your P1 and P2. Now, whatever total cost S2 now has, it will then now be allocated to P1 and P2. Okay? Now, for the algebraic or reciprocal method, this is what happens. Maybe your service departments provide services to each other. So your cost allocation should happen like this. S1 cost should allocate some S2 cost, and S2 cost should allocate some S1 cost. Something like that. Okay? So, nag-allocate sila sa isa't isa because they provide service sa isa't isa. After that happens, S1 will then be allocating it to P1 and P2, and S2 will also now be allocating it to P1 and P2. Okay? So, that's what happens in the service department cost allocation. Now, the question is, okay, we have these three methods available. What is the best method to use? Okay, so medyo may kwentuhan tayo dito. Okay. The proper method to use in service cost allocations depend on how the service departments provide their services to other service departments and to the production departments. You will be using the direct method if it's okay, so actually it's applicable for entities whose service departments directly provide services to the production departments, and there is no or very little service provision of one service department to another service department. For example, human resource department and cafeteria. Ayan. Tapos, production department 1 and 2. Tapos, si Human Resource Department, siya yung nagmamanage ng employee needs ng mga nasa production process. Pero wala siyang sinoserve sa cafeteria na service kasi yung mga tauhan sa cafeteria, kinuha lang sa agency ng company. So, hindi siya employees talaga ng company. Kumuha lang sila ng agency na magtatao dun sa cafeteria. So, walang minamanage sa HR dun sa cafeteria. Tapos, nagkataon, si cafeteria, ang allowed lang na pumasok sa kanya, this is just a very funny story pero we'll be just applying it technically ha. Now, let's say for example, si cafeteria naman, bawal siyang gamitan ni human resource employees. Puro si production lang. No? So, is there a service from human resource to cafeteria? Wala. Is there a service from cafeteria going to human resource? Wala din. So, the direct method of allocation is applicable because wala naman pong pakialam si human resource and cafeteria in each other. So, your human resource will just be, or your human resource cost is allocated to production 1 and 2. And then, si cafeteria, production department 1 and 2 lang din ang allocation mo sa kanya. Okay? So, ganun po yung nangyayari. Now, for the sequential method naman, it's applicable for entities whose one service department is also a recipient of a service from another service department alongside provision of services to the production departments. Okay. So, ganito po yung nangyayari. Medyo gawin nating malungkot. Si Human Resource Department ay sinaserve niya na yung mga empleyado sa cafeteria kasi empleyado na talaga ng companies yung nasa loob ng cafeteria, hindi na agency. Pero, ang ginawa ng company, yung cafeteria, ang pwede lang kumain, mga production personnel lang. Okay? Yun lang daw yung pwedeng kumain kasi sila daw yung mga manual labor, yung mga talagang napapagod sa gawa. Yung mga HR daw kasi ay more on clerical works, no? Baka ganun yung mindset ng company. So, hindi sila pwedeng gumamit ng services ng cafeteria. So, ang nangyayari, si human resource nagbibigay ng services dun sa tatlo, si cafeteria, si production department 1, tsaka si production department 2. Pero walang reciprocal services na si cafeteria nagsaserve kay HR kasi si HR hindi sila nakakakain sa karinderya, sa cafeteria. Okay? So what happens is that sequential method ka. The cost of your human resource services will be allocated to the cafeteria P1 and P2, and then whatever total cost that you have now for the cafeteria, that's what you will be allocating to production 1 and 2. Ganun siya. Okay. Now, for the algebraic method, that is applicable for entities whose service departments reciprocally provide services to each other as well as to the production departments. Let's say, for example, the human resource department manages the employee needs of the employees in the cafeteria, employees in the production department 1, and employees in the production or the workers in the production department 2. And then the cafeteria is available for everybody. Human resource personnel can eat on them, and then ang tawag dito, yung production department 1 and 2 employees or workers can eat also in the cafeteria. So, nagbibigayan ng service si human resource to cafeteria and cafeteria to human resource. So, dahil meron silang reciprocal provision of services as well as yung pagbibigay din nila ng services to the production departments, then that's the time that you will be using the algebraic method. Okay? So, yun po. Wala po actually tayong management accounting standards na nagsasabi niyang mga bagay na yan. It just rests on the precision ng ating magiging cost allocation technique. Kasi parang ganito kasi ang mangyayari. Meron naman palang provision of services si human resource to cafeteria or cafeteria to human resource. Bakit ka magda-direct method? Parang hindi mo tuloy na recognize yung reciprocity ng service nila. Or nagbibigayan naman pala ng service si human resource to cafeteria or cafeteria to human resource. Bakit ang bibigyan mo lang ng importansya yung cost na nai-incur sa human resource when in reality may reciprocity ng services dun sa isa't isa. So, baka pag ganun yung scenario, mas magandang mag-algebraic method ka. Okay? What we are looking for is precision dun sa ating mga i-allocate na service department ko sa production department. Yun yung magsasabi kung anong best method yung gamitin sa'yo. So, the best method to use is how it really happens in the entity. Okay. And with that, let's now try to understand it numerically. So, let's have problem number 2. Solids Manufacturing has 4 departments, Assembly Department and Finishing Department. Doon daw po yung production. Tapos meron tayong Cafeteria and Maintenance Department. Okay? The overhead cost of the cafeteria is allocated based on the number of employees. Bakit kaya number of employees yung naging allocation base natin sa cafeteria? Kasi syempre, mas precise naman yata na tignan natin kung ilan ba yung napapakain ng cafeteria. ng mga empleyado. And then sa maintenance department cost naman po is based on the overhead during the period. Okay. Pero depende naman din kung saan siya mas fit tignan ng company. Baka naman sa machine or sa direct labor hours, pwede rin ganon. Depende sa problem. Now, your problem tells you to allocate the service department cost using direct method, sequential, and algebraic. And let's do it one by one. Let's first discuss direct method. O ganito gagawin nyo. Gagawa kayo ng dalawang table, isa sa assembly tsaka sa finishing. Ang starting amount natin ng factory overhead nila is syempre itong 100,000 for assembly and 60,000 sa finishing. Sabi ko sa inyo, pag direct method, kung ano lang yung cost dun sa service, bibigay mo dito. So, 250, bigyan mo si assembly, si finishing. 150 ni maintenance, bigyan mo lang din si assembly, taka si finishing. Ganun lang kasimple pag direct method. So, let's now allocate cafeteria cost allocation. Your cost allocation for cafeteria is based on the number of employees. So, gagawan mo lang ng ratio. If there's 1,500 employees in assembly and 1,000 employees in finishing, so 1,500 plus 1,000, 2,500 yung magiging denominator mo. Okay? So, 250,000 cafeteria cost multiplied by 1,500 employees in the assembly department divided by 2,500 employees overall. 150,000 goes to the assembly department. Now, for finishing, it's 250,000 times 1,000 over 25, which is 100,000. Pag pinag-add nyo itong dalawa, dapat yan yung 250,000. So, na-allocate na natin si cafeteria. Si maintenance naman, ganito gagawin mo. Based daw po sa overhead cost. So, 100, tsaka 60, 160 ang ating magiging denominator. Okay? So, 150,000 maintenance cost multiplied by 100,000 over 160, which is 93,750. And then 150,000 times 60 over 160, which is 56,250. And when you add these two, dapat 150 siya. Then you get the total vertically for the assembly department. It's 343,750, and for finishing department, your total overhead becomes 216,250. Now, in cost accounting, yan na po yung magiging basis nyo sa pagdedetermine ng predetermined overhead rate. Okay, ganun po siya. But for managerial accounting, so syempre iisipin na ng managers, okay, if this is our factory overhead, ayan, marami ka nang i-consider na magkano ba yung rate niyan per hour or magkano ba yung predetermined overhead rate natin and how will it affect in our decision making and pricing decisions. Ganun lang. Okay? Now, let's solve it using sequential method. Pag sequential method naman po, yung 250 ni cafeteria, bibigyan mo muna si maintenance, tas magbibigay ka na rin kay assembly tsaka finishing. Pero dahil yung kay maintenance, nadagdagan na siya ng konting cafeteria cost, kung anumang total na yon, yun ay ibibigay mo kay assembly tsaka kay finishing. Okay? So, lagay ka lang uli ng dalawang magandang tawag dito. Tatlo pala, sorry. Maglalagay ka ng tatlo na column. So, syempre si maintenance kasi bibigyan mo muna bago ka makapagbigay kay assembly tsaka kay finishing. Okay? So, this is how you do it. Overhead po ni maintenance is 150, same with assembly 100 and finishing of 60. Okay? So, let's now allocate your cafeteria cost. Your cafeteria cost is again based on the number of employees. So, 20 plus 1,500 plus 1,000, 2,520 na po ang denominator natin. Hindi na 2,500 kasi kasama na si maintenance sa allocation. So, 250,000 times 20 employees in the maintenance department divided by 2,520, 1,984.13. And then for your assembly department is 250,000 times 1,500 over 2,520. That's 148,809.52. And for your finishing, it's 250 times 1,000 times 2,520, 99,206.35. Gets mo muna yung total kasi kailangan natin yung kay maintenance. So, yung maintenance cost ngayon na allocate mo, hindi na lang 150,000 dahil naka-step method ka, nagkaroon na siya ng konting cafeteria cost. So, ang nangyari, 151,984.13 na yung i-allocate natin kay assembly and kay finishing. That is your overhead after cafeteria cost. So, diretso na tayo sa allocation ng maintenance cost. Based po siya sa overhead. So, dahil lang ina-allocate na lang po natin is sa production na lang, 100 tsaka 60 pa din, parang kanina sa direct method. Okay? So, ang for distribution natin is 151,984.13. So, present mo na siya negatively para mamaya mag-0 po siya. Okay. 151,984.13 for assembly is 100 over 160. So, 94,990.08. And then, 151,984.13. 60 over 160, 56,994.05. So, magzi-0 na si maintenance. And then, for assembly is 343,799.61. And for finishing is 216,200.40. Yung ating total estimated factory overhead for both of the departments. And then now, let's do it algebraically. Dito naman po tayo sa algebraic method. Pag algebraic method, syempre magkakaroon tayo ng mga konting mathematical computations. Okay. Gagawa po muna tayo ng tinatawag nating percentage allocation. Paano po ginagawa? Yon. Una, si cafeteria cost po natin, sabi natin, it's based on the employees. So, this is what happens. Okay? So, the 0.79% came from 20 employees over 2,520 employees. Okay? Yan po yun. And then, for assembly naman po, 1,500 employees over 2,520. And then, for finishing, 1,000 employees over 2,520. Siyempre, si mismong cafeteria, wala siyang available percentage kasi siya nga yung ipamimigay, di ba? Okay? Ganun po yun. Now, for maintenance naman po, based on overhead cost, so, 250 ni cafeteria, 100 ni assembly, tsaka 60 ni finishing, 410. So, mangyayari, 250 over 410, tapos 100 over 410 at saka 60 over 410. Bakit walang sariling percentage sa maintenance? Kasi nga po, siya yung ipamimigay mamaya. Okay? So, pag meron ka na pong mga percentages, if you have already these percentages, you can now create for the algebraic functions of linear equations in two unknowns. Okay? C cost is equals to 250,000 cafeteria cost plus 60.98% cost coming from maintenance. Ayan o, 250 plus 60.98 M. Okay? And then for your M, that's 150,000 plus 0.79 galing kay C. So, yan po yung isosolve natin. So, ang gagawin po natin, solve for C, solve for M. Okay, let's start with your C. If your C cost is 250,000 plus 60.98% M, so this is how you do it. C is equals to 250 plus 60.98 multiplied by M. Eh, ano ba yung M? In terms of C mo na ngayon siya. Okay, ano ba yung M? Ito yon, yung 150 plus 0.79C. Para we can solve for C. Okay, and then, what happens is you just distributive multiplication, 60.98% times 150,000, that's 91,470. And then 60.98% multiplied by 0.79% C, 0.0048C. Okay, then transpose 0.0048C to the other side. And then pag-combine mo yung effect ng 250,000 tsaka 91,470, which is 341,470. So what happens is that it's now 0.9952C is equals to 341,470. Divide both sides by 0.9952C. C cost is 343,116.96. Yan na po yung gagamitin natin to solve for M. Okay? So, ngayon po, ang M cost natin is 150 plus 0.79C. Wala na tayong problema kasi meron ka ng C. So, M is equals to 150,000 plus 0.79 multiplied by 343,116.96. Okay? So, you just multiply that, 150,000 plus 2,710.62. Your M cost is now 152,710.62. Now, if you already have the C and you already have the M, we are now ready to allocate. Okay? So, ganun din po, assembly and finishing. Let's now allocate first the C cost. Okay, so lista mo muna si estimated factory overhead of 100,000 and 60,000. Now, for your cafeteria cost allocation, this is what you do. So, syempre, C cost na tayo. Hindi na yung 250. Okay? Kasi, yung C cost na to, may effect na ng M. Yung M cost na to, may effect na ni C. Kasi nga, may reciprocity. Okay? So, 343,116.96 multiplied by, ito po yun, 59.52%. And then the same thing will happen for the finishing, 343,116.96 times 39.68%. Okay? Tapos i-allocate mo na rin po si M cost, which is 152,710.62. So, ganito naman po. 152,710.62, sundin mo na lang yung ginawa mong percentage kanina, 24.39%. And then, doon naman po sa 152,710.62, 14.63. Ito po yun, 14.63. So, pag na-allocate mo na po yung mga cost na yon, ito na po yung magiging total overhead for the assembly and finishing department. For assembly is 341,469.33 and for finishing is 218,490.37. So always remember, kaya po nagbago na yung ina-allocate nating cost kay cafeteria and maintenance kasi yung C cost natin dapat may laman na ng M at yung M cost natin dapat may laman na ng C kasi they are providing reciprocal services to each other. And that has been our discussion of activity-based costing and service cost allocation methods. And our next lesson is standard costing system and variance analysis as applied to cost control. Again, please like, share, and subscribe to Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH and hit the notification bell button and comment down your questions, suggestions, and reactions. This has been Sir Chua's Accounting Lessons PH, and to God be all the glory, honor, and praise. Thank you very much for being with us today. 함께 해주신 여러분 고맙습니다.